Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. Anger with your spouse as a reason for cheating. Wayward. I don't know if I tagged this correctly, because it's a question for both wayward and betrayed partners. It boils down to this: for any of you, was cheating an expression of anger at your spouse/partner? Sorry this is long. If you make it through, thanks for reading. Anyhow, my wayward spouse and I have been working towards possible reconciliation for a little more than half a year. I haven't decided whether reconciliation is the direction I want to go. But it's what he wants, and he's been working very hard to try and make it happen. He's been in individual counseling, and part of what he's been working on figuring out is why he got involved in having the affair in the first place. Among the possible reasons, one that seems to resonate a lot is the idea that he had a lot of anger issues that he didn't recognize or examine, and that his affair was a passive-aggressive expression of anger towards me, or rather towards what I represented in his mind. For background, this is my husband's second marriage. His first wife was extremely abusive. I don't only know this because he said so, I witnessed it myself, and also heard about it from their children who, now grown, no longer speak to their mother. It's coming out in therapy that my husband also had some long-standing issues of resentment with his mother, and that he had a lot of ingrained animosity towards women in general. During our relationship prior to the affair, my husband's demeanor was always a bit emotionally flat, to such an extent that I, along with the rest of the family, suspected he might be autistic. He was especially that way with me. Even at the beginning of our relationship he would not compliment me or express praise, admiration, or other things like that. This sometimes hurt, and I would tell him so. I would sometimes almost beg for a compliment or some demonstration of affection. He just wouldn't do it. He was very flat affect. But he would also sometimes be critical or controlling. And, significantly, his way of expressing displeasure was always passive-aggressive. Despite these things there were other qualities in him that I loved, but these things were a problem for me. He would say that he loved me, but that was pretty much it. Through his job, my husband had occasional optional opportunities to travel around the country abroad doing a type of service work. As I say, these were optional. He always jumped at the opportunity to go. These trips typically lasted a month or so. I had some issues with these trips. 1. He would barely communicate when he was on them. 2. Each time he would go on one, I would be left alone to deal with whatever was going on at home, which was sometimes challenging. 3. Although I would miss him terribly, and said so, he would never say he missed me. 4. He made unilateral decisions to do these trips and was bound and determined to go on every one he could, regardless of how I felt. And 5, perhaps most of all, I was unhappy that he was never willing to go anywhere together with me. He was uninterested in traveling together with me. I was dissatisfied with this situation, but eventually I reconciled myself to it all, reasoning that no partner or relationship is perfect. It's my second marriage, so I knew something about that. And to me, the good times we had together made up for that. In my eyes we were best friends and very compatible people who enjoyed each other's company. Except that over time we began spending less and less time doing things together. My husband also often got extremely involved, to an obsessive level, with hobby-type activities, none of which were things we could participate in together. With work and these activities, it often got to a point where he wasn't around much. I didn't like this, and complained about it. But no matter what, no matter how much he was gone, I still trusted him. One reason why I trusted him is that, from the very beginning, I had made it clear that the one thing I wouldn't be able to stand for in a relationship was being lied to. I had been lied to in the past, and it had been the worst experience of my life. I specifically told him that if he ever found himself attracted to someone else, or he ever had the urge to cheat, I would prefer if he came and just told me. I promised I would never punish him for being honest with me, even if it was something I didn't like or didn't want to hear. I said that no matter what, we would always find a way to work through anything, one way or another, so long as we were completely honest and upfront. I said I would always rather know than not know. Honesty was so important to me, we incorporated it into our wedding vows. So I did trust he would be open and honest with me, as I would always be with him. Fast forward a number of years, to D-Day and my accidental discovery that my husband had been having a secret 3.5-year physical/emotional affair with one woman and a secret 1-year emotional affair with another. Needless to say, I was beyond shocked. I discovered the affair because of messages between him and the affair partners. After D-Day he gave me open access to his phone and devices. Unfortunately a lot of things had been deleted, especially from the emotional affair, because of the long duration of the physical affair and the fact that they messaged daily, all day long from early morning to late at night. On a number of different messaging platforms, many messages remained, as in, tens of thousands. Here's the thing. All his messages to his affair partner were full of effusive, expressive, over-the-top language. He lavished non-stop praise and compliments upon her about anything and everything. If she sneezed, then it was the most beautiful sneeze the world has ever seen. The hyperbole was off the charts. Not only that, but he constantly told her how much he missed her, couldn't wait to see her, yearned for her, and so forth. And of course he spent a lot of leisure time with her, lying to me and saying he was at work. They had vague plans to eventually run off into the sunset together. In other words, his messages and actions were pretty much exactly and precisely the very things I had asked for, pleaded for and begged for during our entire relationship, and his 3.5-year deception broke the one cardinal rule of our relationship. It's like his entire affair was essentially a giant passive-aggressive FU towards me and our relationship, an intense expression of anger. This realization on his part during therapy and on my part in talking it over with him has been profound. I mean, the thing that's been tough to figure out has been the why of his actions. I know that's usually the case with affairs. It seems to almost be the case that more than anything else, his affair was an expression of anger, mainly targeting me. But why was he so angry at me to begin with? That's still a bit of a mystery. Unlike his ex-wife, I wasn't abusive. I was loving, caring, giving and demonstrative. It's true that over time I got discouraged with things sometimes, but that resulted more in me becoming depressed and withdrawn sometimes, not abusive. So maybe he had some anger over that. If he did, he never expressed it. He just acted out in a big way. The affair partner is not particularly attractive or special in any way. She's kind of ordinary and not especially bright. She's married with 2 children, which makes me feel angry with her for doing it, and is mostly a dull, bored stay-at-home mom, although she does have the same hobby, playing a musical instrument in an amateur orchestra, as my husband, which is how they got acquainted. She's quite well off, lives in a big house, and is very status conscious, which I think was part of what attracted her to my husband. He's a doctor, while her husband is in a lower status but well-paid job. As is often the case, I'm objectively more attractive, more personable, smarter, funnier, nicer, and all the rest, compared to the affair partner. In the week following D-Day my husband snapped out of the affair fog and limerence very quickly. Looking back, he says he doesn't know why he did what he did. He doesn't see why he was attracted to the affair partner. He can't access the part of himself that was so infatuated with her. He feels puzzled, ashamed and remorseful. I believe him. I'm very sad and full of anger myself now, but I'm interested in also trying to figure out the whys. His behavior towards me has changed immensely. I would have to say he has become the husband I always longed for, demonstrative, loving, passionate, engaged, involved, and so forth. He says he's learned so much. But he and I are both still trying to figure things out. And this idea of his passive-aggressive anger is one possible explanation. Or was he just generally angry at women and wife/mother figures in his life, and I happened to be the one he was with? I don't know. Anyhow, all of this leads to my original question, which is, in your experience, have you seen evidence of affairs as a way of expressing anger at the partner/spouse? Thanks for reading. I look forward to any input you might have. This is so well written and so much of it resonates. Thanks for posting. If she sneezed, then it was the most beautiful sneeze the world has ever seen. The hyperbole was off the charts. I intercepted my ex's texts, and they were ducking ridiculous. Like a college freshman in English literature wrote them. If she hadn't been blowing up my life and her family, her compositions would have been comical. Thank you. Oh yeah, same. The messages back and forth are cringeworthy. You should read Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. Him blaming it on anger towards you, his ex, his mom? It's all bullshit. All of it. He sounds controlling and manipulative. Please read it, it's very eye-opening. Thanks. I will. I have downloaded it and am reading it. Thanks again. First of all, you sound like a very level-headed person, emotionally intelligent, and empathetic. And I'm sorry for the pain this caused you. I am not sure we can ever fully understand the why part. Especially when your husband says he doesn't understand it himself. Therapy might provide insight, but even that has its limits. Do you think you can accept the possibility you might never know? One thing I noticed is you said that you tended to get depressed and withdraw from the relationship. Do you think this might have felt like abandonment to him? If he had abuse in his past, that kind of trauma might have actually felt more like home to him, and the absence of that may have inspired him to seek drama/stimulation elsewhere. I can say that, 11 years ago, when I cheated in a later, I certainly had my resentments towards my partner, and perhaps I used those as justifications to stray, but I didn't cheat as a way to get even or channel my anger towards him. I was just selfish, inconsiderate, entitled, and ultimately unaware of how to cope and communicate in healthier ways. And that was very hurtful and caused him a lot of pain, but it hurt me too. Fast forward to now, and I'm betrayed in my most recent relationship. It helps me to reframe the betrayal as not something my partner did to me but something he did to himself. This next part may be obvious, but I'll say it anyway. He has abuse in his past, but that doesn't necessarily explain what he did, nor does it justify it. And it definitely wasn't your fault. Thank you for this. Wow, so you're both a wayward and betrayed. Actually, I have a similar background, having been the wayward in my first marriage. I didn't include that information in my already long original post, and yes, I was abused while growing up. I did it out of selfishness, immaturity and entitlement, and it was definitely about me. I was awful, and hurt many people in the process, particularly my first husband and my family. But I came to regret what I'd done and to live in remorse, spending many years trying to make up for the damage I'd done. Because I came to realize the damage I'd done, I know I would never cheat again, never make that terrible mistake. My current husband knew all of this. We had discussed it numerous times. Sigh. Yeah, I do realize I may never fully understand the why of my husband's affair. No, he didn't actually have abuse in his past until his first wife. It's just that the passive-aggressive acting out hypothesis seems to resonate. It feels like what my husband acted like was a recalcitrant, rebellious adolescent. He may have been angry at me because of my depression, although I didn't shut him out during that time. But his hostility towards me began long before I was depressed, and directly contributed to its occurrence. I appreciate your ideas and your input. I'll think about it. I hope you can find some peace in your situation. And I'm glad to hear there are others like me who were wayward and realized the pain it caused and never acted that way again. With the exception of cheating, as far as the rest of his emotional state, I feel like you could be writing a description of me. I am the angry, withdrawn man with a history of being mentally, physically, even sexually abused. I myself had an emotional wall up around myself. My biggest fear was getting hurt, that and having a need for validation from others. My therapist helped me sort out a lot of my own problems. I had abandonment issues from my mom during a time when I was being sexually abused. I couldn't escape the abuse, so all I could do was to try to wall myself off from feeling anything. He probably has an emotional wall up as well that results in you being kept at a distance. Hopefully, therapy can get him to take it down. You can continue to offer him reassurance, but remember he still has to do much of the work himself. If he had issues with his mom and or past women, it might help his understanding if he realizes a few things. He is maybe a messed up person incapable at this time of having healthy relationships. This is likely the result of his past. But he may reach acceptance sooner if he realizes that the toxic people in the past may have themselves been made that way as a result of their pasts. My mom may not have been a good mom, but maybe she never had a good upbringing that could lead to good motherly qualities. My abuser was a teen and I forgive what happened because I feel that for a teen to do that maybe they were a victim early in life as well. If he is to move past his flaws, he will have to realize that the abusers in his past may have been victims themselves. Maybe then he can resolve to let the pattern of abuse end at this point in his life. If they diagnosed high-functioning autism when I was a kid, I probably would have been identified as HFA as well. As it were back then, you pretty much had to be like the Rain Man to get diagnosed. Goodness. You have been through a lot. Thank you for your open and honest comment. I'm sorry to hear about the abuse you experienced. Sounds like you have a valuable ability to deal with it and come to a place of at least some forgiveness and peace. A few things here. What you're doing is called untangling the skein. Don't do that. Their brains do not work like yours. There's no deep reason for why they did what they did, although they have a sob story to avoid accountability for everything. They did it simply because they're selfish and gave themselves permission to hurt others for their own enjoyment. Greater than for any of you, was cheating an expression of anger at your spouse/partner? Even if they say it is, that doesn't make it true. Cheating is never about the partner and always about the cheater. Lots of people deserve to get dumped, nobody deserves to get cheated on. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.